I suspect most people, if they were going to identify any doctor as a queer icon, they would go with this one, not this one. So I'm on record in a number of places talking about the fact that Peter Capaldi, the 12th Doctor, is at present, and I say that because this has changed previously, my favorite incarnation of the Doctor. But I really want to do a dive into one of the specific reasons why that is, because this is going to involve me talking about how it speaks directly to my own experience in a way that Doctor Who otherwise largely hasn't. Before I get too far into this, yes, I am going to be connecting the 12th Doctor and his arc across series 8, 9, and 10 with my experience as a gender-fluid person. This is not me making a claim that the Doctor is gender-fluid. Well, I mean, they kind of are because they changed gender, but that's not actually what I'm going to be focusing on. I'm not trying to make a claim that other people should read the Doctor as some form of LGBTQ+. However, he speaks to my experience in that area specifically, and I really have wanted to talk about why for a long time. Now, Genderfluid is, well, I certainly consider it to be. Some folks are contentious about this, but it is part of the trans umbrella because transgender is meant to be an umbrella term, and it refers to anyone who is not cisgender. Cisgender being someone who identifies as the gender they were assigned at birth, i.e. the vast majority of the population. Now, for people who do not identify as the gender they were assigned at birth, the one most people are familiar with would be what I would call binary transgender people. So that's trans men and trans women, people who were assigned one gender at birth and then fully transition to living as the other gender. But that does kind of view gender as a binary. And there are lots of people who fall under the transgender umbrella because they don't identify as what they were assigned at birth, but who don't just swap to the other gender out of those two options, because there are far more than two options. There are non-binary people who fall somewhere in the middle. There are agender people who just kind of aren't on the spectrum at all. And there's gender fluid people like me whose position on that spectrum just doesn't really stay put at all. And there is an easy way to connect the Doctor in general to a trans experience by way of regeneration. That's not how I'm going to connect, though, for a number of reasons. Firstly, as a gender fluid person, my trans experience doesn't match the template that a lot of people think of in terms of, well, I was this, but I realized I'm this, and so now I'm going to live like that. My own journey has been very gradual. It has been a slow evolution, slow discovery, and a slow change of my understanding of who I am. I've talked about this on my other channel. That's probably a good primer video to get a general sense of how I approach myself and my own evolution. But that arc, that slow, gradual change, for me and for my understanding of myself, is a big part of why I latch on to Capaldi's Doctor. Because I would argue that the 12th Doctor is really the only one with a truly clear character arc. Most of the other Doctors change a little over the course of their time. They may soften a little if they started out a bit gruff. First Doctor kind of did that. And if you listen to Big Finish, the 6th Doctor did as well. They can open up and they can become more personable as opposed to more closed off. Eccleston's 9th Doctor did that. But that's not quite the same as an arc. It's a bit of an arc because it's a change. It's them becoming more comfortable with who they're around and opening up to them. But that's really just revealing more of who they are. The fundamental cores of who they are aren't really changing. They're just revealing more of it to the people around them. Capaldi's Doctor goes through clear changes in terms of his understanding of who he is and how it is best for him to exemplify that over those 3 series. I've seen people criticize his time as being inconsistent because the way that he behaves in Series 8 is not the same way he behaves in Series 9, is not the same way he behaves in Series 10. Now, if you don't view it as an arc, yes, that can seem inconsistent. And it can be a little bit jarring that it kind of seems to jump in between series. But for me, it makes 100% sense. Series 8, he spends the entire time asking questions like, am I a good man? He doesn't know who he is. He knows something isn't quite clicking. He knows some basics. He knows some fundamentals. He knows what he wants to fight for, but as a person, he isn't really sure of who he is or who he's supposed to be. And by the end, he's found something to latch onto with that speech that he gives to Missy in Death in Heaven.
I am an idiot passing through, helping out, learning.
And then in Series 9, he's embraced that very fully. He has really leaned into the idea that he's just an idiot passing through and trying to help. Possibly leaned into it a bit too hard. With the sunglasses, with the guitar, with the more casual look with the hoodies. And you could think of that as, God, they really just wrote him like garbage. Like, no. As someone who has had to go through periods of self-discovery, one of the very common things when you reach a point where you go, okay, I think this is where I'm at, is to dive into it maybe a little harder than you needed to. Sometimes you need to overcorrect and then pedal back and actually find the middle ground where you're supposed to be. And to me, that's what his journey from Series 8 grumpy to Series 9 flamboyant to Series 10, where it feels like he has found the balance of everything, where it feels like he still can be fun and silly, yet has not lost that sense of gravity, and he does not let that sense of fun cause a dangerous situation. That speaks to me a lot, because I can look back to my earlier days before I really thought to identify myself as gender fluid. I would identify as a crossdresser for a very long time. And back then, when I would get into a feminine mode, I would have to go all out. I would have to body shave, wig, full makeup, short skirts, high heels. I needed all of that to feel like I was connecting with my femininity. I was overdoing it. I found something that, like, yes, this is definitely a part of who I am, but I couldn't just explore. I dove headlong into it, like the Doctor dove headlong into being the idiot with a box and a screwdriver in Series 9. And then over time, as I got more comfortable with myself, I was able to feel myself, even in a feminine mindset, with a few small touches, not needing every affectation. There was a point when I did need it. But then over time, no, I don't need all this. I can find a better balance for myself. And here's the big thing. That journey for me took time. And this Doctor's journey takes time. That means so much to me, because I feel like so often character arcs for shows like this can feel rushed or minimal. Like I said, the way that I can perceive an arc in most of the other Doctors, especially in the modern era, is basically them either opening up a little bit more about themselves or finding the ability to reconnect with people again after something rough happened. That kind of applies to Smith, for instance. But that, to me, is really only an arc in terms of how they relate to other people. It's not an arc about how they think about themselves. And the one other time that I would say that kind of happens is with Tennant and with things like Waters of Mars and Time Lord Victorious, which I know has now become a whole spinoff thing, which I haven't gotten into, so maybe it's better explored there. But sticking to the show, yeah, no, that kind of just happens quickly and then it's done. It's rushed. But to watch Capaldi over time question who he is, grapple with what that means, overdo it, and then dial it back and find the happy medium, and to be so assured of who he was that he was scared to change again. At the end of The Doctor Falls, leading into Twice Upon a Time, he says,
I don't want to change again. Never again! I can't keep on being somebody else.
And my reading of that, part of it is, he has fought so hard and so long and gone through so much to become who he is now. The idea that he might lose that in an instant is far more terrifying than the idea that he might have just died. If he died, he would have died as the person he had fought and worked and suffered in order to become. And because he doesn't know what will happen with regeneration, all of that could change. And maybe when he regenerates, he'll be comfortable in whatever new identity and sense of self that he has. Or maybe the Doctor will end up right back at square one and have to go through this whole journey again after everything that he went through. And that is terrifying. The idea of your journey of self-exploration, of your understanding of yourself, getting undone, is terrifying. And I feel like he captures that fear. And I feel like he earned it by allowing the audience in to watch him understand. With key moments like the end of Death in Heaven, like the girl who died when he realizes why he has this face. And it is to help him stay the course and become the best, most true version of himself that he can, to that declaration in The Doctor Falls about who he is and his refusal to be anything else other than that.
You know, maybe there's no point in any of this at all, but it's the best I can do, so I'm going to do it. And I will stand here doing it till it kills me. You're going to die too.
That journey, watching him not just change from his experience, but change because he is questioning and looking at and carefully examining himself and trying to better know himself. Not for the sake of other people, but because he needs to sort his own life. That speaks to me so deeply. And it's why I said at the start, I won't rule out the possibility that another Doctor might become my favorite at some point. But I will be very surprised. I have loved so many incarnations of the Doctor, classic and modern. But I don't have any other that speaks to my life, my journey, and feels like it captures my struggles and my fears the way that Peter Capaldi's 12th Doctor does. And for me, the arc of his character, probably unintentionally, but serves as a beautiful allegory for LGBTQ plus self-discovery, at least in regards to how my journey went. I don't know how many folks have much interest in this take, but I needed to share it because it's so core to what I love about him. What is it about your favorite doctor that helps you really connect with them? Whatever it is, or whatever your thoughts are on anything I've just said, politely leave your comments down below and let's talk about it. I have a Patreon. That is what keeps this entire thing up and running, and there are rewards for every tier of support. There's also YouTube memberships now with some different rewards if you'd rather go that way. But if you're not able to, like, share, subscribe, the usual YouTube stuff helps me out as well. But don't even feel too much pressure about that. The thing that I really want you to remember is that you are beautiful, you are valid, you are loved. You are the council, and I only run the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned.